Good morning. Great to see all of you. Thank you to everybody who's traveled so far to be here. This is just my second Global Moot, and I am delighted to get to join you again. I took the stage last year in Mexico for the first time and was very, very nervous to step into this spot, which has been filled so well by Martin for so long. I feel much less nervous this time, but a lot more excited. There's a lot that I've learned over the course of the last year. And what I want to do this morning is take an opportunity to share with you some of the things that I've learned. But before I do that, I want to check. I've also had the opportunity to travel to some of the regional events. I was in Canada for the Canadian Moot earlier this year. Who else was at the Canada Moot? Good, that means only a few of you will have seen this content before. I am taking from some of that, but most of the presentation today, and the most exciting part that I think we have the opportunity to see today, is actually not going to be from me. In the same way that last year, if you were with us in Mexico, you know that I had the opportunity to feature some of the really cool projects that we're focusing on that are driving impact across the world. Today, I want to focus on some of the things that are really driving innovation. And so as we get to get into this, I'll share a few of my learnings, but then I'm going to bring some of our colleagues and community members up onto the stage to show us some of the really cool things that are actually happening. But where I want to start is by acknowledging that as I came into Moodle, I knew very little about open source, about the history of open source, about the importance of open source. I had been around it for most of my career. Most of you know and have heard I've worked in online education for my entire career, but I was not intimately familiar with open source, and there is still a lot that I have to learn, but over the course of the year I've learned a lot. I did a bit of research coming into this to try and understand what are some of the big moments in open source. And so this is a reflection of a very, very brief and partial history of open source. So you're welcome after the presentation to come up and tell me all of the things I missed in this timeline, because there are loads of them, but these are some of the important ones. You could argue that actually open source started when people started putting cave paintings up and people could come and contribute and add to those. But there are a few things in sort of the modern timeline that I think are really, really important. As I looked at this and went back and thought, actually there's some really interesting things that started happening in the early 1800s. And it's not surprising that they started with a group of librarians. Who here is a librarian? We have librarians in the audience. Thank you. We all owe you a huge debt. We need you. You have driven so much of this. We are very, very appreciative of librarians making sure that information was available and accessible. You roll forward from there about 60 years, and what you have is the University of London pioneering distance courses through correspondence. I know we must have University of London participants. Who here is from the University of London? Any of the institutions in the University of London? All right, thank you. As you move forward, the late 1800s, you start to have tutors from Oxford who are collaborating with local communities, something that is very highly localized and also customized. Very, very much in the spirit of what open source was. Jump forward almost 100 years, and now you have the Open University that's beginning to, that is founded in the late 60s, begins to offer courses to 25,000 students in the early 70s, and I know we have Open University participants with us. Who's here from the Open University? All right, thank you so much. As you move forward, there's a number of other things. GNU operating systems has the free software movement. Linux kernel is launched. You move forward from there and you see things like Merlot. Open source is actually a phrase that begins to get used in the late 90s. Someone will surely tell me that's wrong, but that's what I found. And then you move forward, you begin to see all of these other things that started to happen. Large MOOCs that were happening in the late 2000s. UNESCO adopts OER recommendations in 2019. 6 years later, here we are in Edinburgh together. But there is one event that seems to be missing from this. Anybody see anything distinctly missing from this timeline? There it is. Back in the late 90s, when Martin first founded the project and then launched the first version of Moodle in the early 2000s, that fits right into this timeline. Now, there are some really important themes that I've begun to pick up and learn, and as I've talked with people, I've learned about these. It's been one of the most exciting parts of my learning journey of the last year, is to really find out what these themes are. Really important things like democratization of knowledge, collaboration and sharing, affordability, flexibility and customization, innovation. And today, open source encompasses a wide range of resources, tools, and is used for all kinds of things to further education in whatever environment learning takes place. This continues to be at the core of who we are, at the core of what we do. As I said last year in Mexico, we continue to be committed as we move forward to having a fully open, freely available, enterprise-capable LMS at the center of what we do at Moodle. Now, I really wanted to think about what is it about open source that's important. So earlier this summer, we did a fairly rudimentary survey of a number of the institutions out there that are using Moodle and asked them, why open source? What is it about open source that's really important to you? Why have you chosen that? Over all of the various solutions that are out there in the world, why open source? And here are some of the things that they said. We found that open source products offer us more flexibility to respond to specific needs of our higher education institution, particularly in terms of the VLE. The community aspect of open source is also of vital importance, allowing us to work with colleagues and other institutions to develop resources. Ethical, affordable, sustainable, and customizable. It allows us agency in what we do. When we would like to gain value from wherever we can find it, and open source offers better value. Now, as we took all of the responses we got back, we broke them down into these themes. So I want to do round 2 of a very informal survey, just with those of you in the room. As you look across these themes that are up there, broken into these things, and again, this is what we drew out of the first round of the survey as key themes: value and cost effectiveness, flexibility and customizability, community collaboration and sharing, ownership and control, ethical and sustainable, resilience and trust, pedagogical and strategic benefits. I'm going to ask you to go through a very frustrating binary exercise of deciding which one of those is the most important to your institution or organization. Just look at the list for a minute, and if you had to center on one, I want to find out which would it be. I'm going to give you 2 more seconds. All right. Who says value and cost effectiveness is the most important? Raise your hand. That's why you choose it. All right, we got a couple of people. Value and cost effectiveness. Good. Who says flexibility and customizability is the most important? All right. What about community collaboration and sharing? Good. Probably a third. Ownership and control? About another third. Ethical and sustainable. Good. 5%. Resilience and trust. And pedagogical and strategic benefits. All right. Who found that to be very difficult to choose one? 100%. Clearly, it's a silly exercise to say there's only one thing that makes this the case, but I think it is really important to recognize, in the same way that the openness of open source provides so many avenues, there are very many reasons that people are drawn to this, that institutions choose it, and as a result, the benefits of all of those things become present. What I have found, as I have been through this journey of the last year, are that there are 3 things that continue to pop out for me that are really important. I've talked about these on a couple of different podcasts I've had the opportunity to participate in. I have had the opportunity to do a little bit of writing about them. But I think these are so important to what it does to underpin the ethos of the community that participates in open source projects. And the first of these things is that I think it facilitates diversity. Maya Angelou said, we all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry. Just think about those tapestries that may be hanging on the walls of the castles that many of you may have toured as you've been here in the UK or in the castle on the hill. I think that open source gives the opportunity for so many different people in so many different places, and specifically in the context in which they operate, to think about how things can be contributed, utilized, and implemented specifically for that environment. And that diversity of thought means we get a lot more views on what's actually needed to make learning effective and productive. The second is that it encourages inclusivity. So Verna Meyer said diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. Verna does a lot of work in terms of inclusive workplaces, inclusive organizations, and environments like that. Because Moodle and other open source projects are open, by their very nature, everybody gets to play. And when you take a wide, broad, diverse field of thought and thinkers, and you say everyone has the opportunity to participate and contribute, what you get is something much more varied and interesting than if it's just a group of 50 or 100 or even 1,000 developers in a room operating to a set of business requirements that are coming out of some kind of market research. And lastly, I think it fosters creativity. Einstein said that creativity is seeing what others see and thinking what no one else has ever thought. That a spark of originality that comes from being in an environment and realizing there's something different that can happen here. And I think that one of the most exciting things has been getting to see that kind of creative contribution that comes from the community. Even if it's just the way people think about implementing what's already in the software, or if it's the things they think about extending or adding to the software, that kind of creativity makes for a very, very rich learning environment. When you wrap these three things up together, the facilitation of facilitation of diversity, particularly diverse thought, encouraging inclusivity, and rich creativity, you get an environment where learning flourishes. And I know that everybody in this room is interested in that. Whether you are serving formal education institutions, whether you are working with organizations that are looking to improve their learning and development inside the workplace, what you want is a place where that learning flourishes. And I think these three things underpin the creation of an environment where that can happen. And that's what I have been really excited about as I have gotten to understand open source better this year. Now, what I want to talk about and bring my co-presenters up to talk about are specifically those areas of innovation that are happening on the forefront of the technology landscape right now. And so what I've focused on are those things that are really beginning to extend the capability of Moodle in terms of AI capability. Now, the entire industry is awash with AI. In fact, everything is awash with AI right now. There are big announcements being made across organizations about large partnerships, about all of the things that are coming. There's lots and lots of talk about what is coming, how it is going to change things. What I want to focus on is what has already been done. There's loads of innovation already taking place. It is here today. It is available inside the community. It is available for Moodle. And so what we want to focus on are not the things that are the promise of tomorrow, but are the things that are already being done, that we are implementing and testing and seeing the benefits of already. Now, there are lots of things AI can do. What I want to do to start this off is introduce you to one of my favorite bits of AI, because it can actually do things that are incredibly creative. And it has introduced me, courtesy of ChatGPT and Daddy Got Coffee, to someone that I really aspire to be. This is one of my favorite people on the internet. Like I said, every morning I have a cup of coffee and I think I could be that guy. That clearly is creative, it's entertaining, it's great. It doesn't have much practical use. And I think we're at a point in time where there is lots of hype and expression about what AI can do, but what we really need to understand and focus on is what is it capable of assisting students to do in terms of better learning, better teaching, what are the underpinnings of it? And that's one of the things I'm really excited about as we bring these co-presenters up. I had a look at across the announcements that have been made in the LMS industry over the course of the last year. These are things that are announcements either about partnerships or about native development that are taking place. And I think you can really boil them down into 4 key areas in terms of what's happening. There is interest and excitement about moving from general content creation to agentic AI. How do you get to a place where you're actually moving from generating content to going to workflows and other orchestration of activity? There's a focus on privacy and control, foregrounding governance and oversight in terms of its use. There's lots of activity taking place around assessment and feedback. This is a hugely time-consuming task for teachers as they're out there. So how do we make that more efficient? How do we make it more accurate? And lastly, the ecosystem and openness that comes with AI. How do we ensure that we're prioritizing agency and data sovereignty? These are things we are thinking about. They're really important issues, and I think you're going to see this highlighted across all of these presentations. So without further ado, I want to invite my first co-presenter up to come up and show you some of the things that's being done. Peter Mayer.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Scott, for this kind introduction. It's a very big honor for me to stay here today with you on the stage. Thank you for that. Today is a very special day for me. I have never spoken in front of such a big audience, and yes, and especially not in a foreign language, so don't be too hard on me. Since summer of 2023, my team and I have working intensively to integrate artificial intelligence to Moodle. A key question, perhaps the key question, was why should we integrate AI to Moodle? This question was not, or is not only relevant for us, but for everyone else here in this room. My name is Peter Mayer, and I'm the head of the BÜX LMS, formerly known as MEBIS LMS, and I want to show you now our approach to answer this question. Oh, sorry. In our considerations, we came to 2 decisive guiding principles. We want to support our teachers to teach, and we want to support our students to learn. These 2 points are our compass when we add new features. And ultimately, it does not matter whether it is AI or not. The question must always be, does this new feature help our teachers to improve their teaching and empower our students to learn better? Everyone has to answer this question for themselves and their specific target group. For us, the answer is complex because our user base is extremely diverse. We have teachers with very different technical skills and students aged 6 to over 20 years. And we have a lot of them in our LMS. We take care of about 175,000 teachers and 1.6 million students in about 70,000 classes. We ask our teachers what they expect from AI in Moodle. The answer was very clear, and I can summarize it to 2 key points. Teachers do not trust entirely in AI-generated content, and teachers want AI to lighten their daily workload. Based on these expectations, the consequences are clear. We need an approach that boosts teachers' efficiency while simultaneously improves the quality of instructions. To achieve this, we must focus on 4 key goals. First, to empower our teachers with content creation tools that allows everyone to fully exploit, and I mean really everyone, from the low experienced to the high experienced teachers, to fully exploit Moodle's full potential. Second, to personalize learning by helping teachers create AI-supported, pedagogically valuable learning environments. And third, to support students with personalized feedback and adaptive learning paths to increase, for example, their motivation. And fourth, to gain insights from the collected learning data in order to continuously optimize instructions. This path allows us to meet the expectations of our users while securing the quality of instruction. Given this challenge, we have developed not only some AI features, we developed a whole AI ecosystem. This framework fits the needs of our 6,200 schools. We choose a system architecture that places the highest value on data privacy and pedagogical added value. And thanks to our framework, all of our functions and features work independently of a specific large language model. The core of this framework is our local AI manager plugin, which provides a legal and technical foundation for all other AI features. I would like to briefly show you now 3 examples of how we use it to support teachers and students. We have extended the TinyMCE editor with a simple AI button. It works just like a bold function. Highlight text, click the button, and features like translation, audio output, or image generation are immediately available. These functions are pre-prompted, and this means that for every application, depending on the selected language model, options are available that generates the necessary prompt through a simple user interface. This is especially valuable for teachers with low technical expertise, as they can write a prompt themselves, but not necessarily have to. If you want to try it out for yourself, you can find all our plugins free of charge in the plugins directory. Just search for Local AI Manager. Our framework supports the main language models such as GPT, Gemini, Llama, and so on. In addition, it can be easily extended with additional models by simply adding a subplugin that enables connection to another language model. A highly used part of our instance is Mod Quiz. We have more than 24 million questions in our question banks, all manually created by our teachers. And you can imagine, we receive many support requests in this area. To simplify this task for our teachers, we have written an AI question generation plugin. It can automatically generate even complex question types. The teacher only needs to enter the question or select the corresponding course content. After clicking Generate Question, it's kind of like an autopilot, and AI is generating the questions by itself. Afterwards, you can edit the questions in the question bank, as always. Our chatbot is not just a classic chatbot. Teachers can configure it directly in the course to meet pedagogical requirements, give it a personality, or limit to specific topics. The pedagogical possibilities are enormous. In this context, the chatbot also allows students to independently upload photos of their solutions to practice assignments. The system then analyzes the submitted solution and provides students with quick feedback in real time. It can not only point out mistakes, but also provide targeted help and correction suggestions that support students in learning more effectively. And finally, a brand new feature, but not finished yet, is the agent mode within the chatbot. It allows users to ask questions about the Moodle system. When you say, I want to create a learning map, the agent doesn't just explain how to do it. It specifies exactly how the settings must be made. For each setting, it also asks if it should be applied to the system. The goal is to empower teachers to use the system effectively, even without AI. The control always remains completely with the person. And the great thing is, this feature uses the existing Moodle infrastructure and therefore already works on all form pages. And we all know Moodle has a lot of them. This is our way of establishing AI as a supportive tool to support our teachers to teach and to empower our students to learn better. I hope I was able to provide some food for thought and look forward to stimulating discussions in the next few days. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Very, very cool stuff. Next up, Marcus Green. Marcus has been in the community for a long time, and even know Marcus is going to share some things.
Thank you very much, Scott. Am I amplified? Oh, good. Turn up. Okay. Hello, my name is Marcus Green, and I work for Catalyst IT EU, and I'm going to talk about I'm the creator of the AI text question type, which allows for the automated marking of free text question responses. And I should emphasize that this has been around for approximately 2 years. It's available from the Moodle plugins database, and in the last year or so, I have collaborated very closely with Peter's team in Bavaria, and so it's been tested and used with an awful lot of people, and also outside of that from many countries, and quite extensively for teaching of languages. So, I was a teacher for 10 years, and marking free text responses is time-consuming, and students have typically forgotten the question by the time they get the feedback. And I used to spend a huge amount of time, sometimes when I should have been doing more relaxing things, marking, and I quickly got to the point where I realized generally students weren't reading the feedback, not because they were bad people, well, mostly they weren't bad people, but they'd just forgotten about it. And people can concentrate on only a finite number of things at any one point, and so they would submit their assignments, I would download it, I would mark it, and maybe a day later or 2 days later, or maybe even 7 days later, they'd get the feedback. The thing about AI text questions, they're easy to create and offer almost instant automated feedback from a large language model. And by almost instant, I mean in a very small number of seconds. So, as you can see from the beautiful little brain icon that pops up there, the AI text question type is effectively a normal Moodle question, and it requires no knowledge of any special or arcane syntax, and it requires 3 things from the question author. It requires the question text, which the student sees, like almost all questions, a prompt for the large language model to tell it how to respond, and optionally, a prompt to tell it how to mark. You don't have to put in marking, and sometimes I think that text responses is better because I know students tend to go, what mark did I get? Yes, but look at my feedback. I don't care. So those are the three things. Or perhaps mine are unusual students, and perhaps your students weren't like that. So, as you can imagine, it depends on a large language model. And it says up there, it says AI stroke LLM, and I'm a bit reluctant to use the AI term, as it is essentially a marketing term, and in my view, large language models are not intelligent, but they are very, very useful. So, of course, it requires the setup and configuration of your Moodle at a global level for some kind of external LLM, and it has been tested with the popular ones, and all the ones that Pete had mentioned on his system, such as ChatGPT, but it's also been tested with a wide range of other models, and for me, very importantly, it's been tested with self-hosting with Olama, and I say that's important because if data sovereignty and privacy is important to you, and it should be, you can do self-hosting so the data never leaves your premises, which in my case is my spare room where I have a computer specially dedicated to this. So, massive disclaimer in big red letters. Nothing summative, no high stakes. Please, no high stakes. This is a tool that's really useful for education, but it is constrained by the inherent limitations of large language models. Most of the time, they give good answers. If you give them good prompts, they can give you very, very useful answers, and those answers are effectively adapting to what the student gives them. Okay, so it's not teacher-created answers, but computer or large language model-created answers. So nothing summative. You got that? Because some people have been suggesting that you can use it for that. And if you want further evidence of this, go and research asking ChatGPT how many times the letter R occurs in the word strawberry. Think about that. It doesn't know until you say, how many? So this is how the question type looks. As I was saying previously, question text, which every question will have typically in Moodle, the AI prompt, and this is like a trivialized version of a prompt. It says, explain if there's anything wrong with the grammar in this sentence. And then we have a mark scheme that says, deduct a point from the score if there's a spelling or grammar mistake. Comment on why any deduction was made. Give no marks if the response is nonsense. Now, that's quite important, and I didn't realize that at first because these models are typically tuned to flatter you. You've heard about this. They tell you that you've got beautiful hair and you're very attractive and all this kind of stuff. And so I was demonstrating this to people, and I type in something that was basically garbage, and the thing say, well, that could be judged as a good response. But if you give it explicit instructions to ignore nonsense, then you get better results from it. Okay, here's a little animation. So obviously you want to test it, and you can test questions in Moodle by doing a preview, but this allows you to test it while editing the question. So you see here it says, yesterday I went to the park. Yay, that looks like good English to me. Let's check it out. And, oh yeah, 3 out of 3. You can do some magic so that it's formatted with HTML. Nice. Next one. That's not a really good answer for this. Oh, good. No marks for that. And yesterday, this is the example, yesterday I go perk. Now, I was really, look, it says PRK is misspelled. And in some versions of that, it knows that PRK was supposed to be park. And you can add as many sample responses as you like to test it, and typically people would go back and add more in as they see how ingenious students can be when answering a question in a way that might be considered correct, but not really in standard English or whatever topic it is that you're teaching. So this is the view a student would see. Write a single sentence in the past tense. Yesterday, I go to the park. Yesterday I go to the park. Oh, so I was looking at that yesterday and checking myself. It says, it's got a grammar. It should be went to the park. 1 point deducted. Now, should they get that mark, really? Is that good marking? And The reality is that it all depends on the quality of the prompt. If you're a teacher, you get to see this, because this question type really is a wrapper which combines the student response with a prompt, and it adds some additional housekeeping, which only the teacher would see fully, and it sends it off to your large language model. You can copy and paste that into ChatGPT or what have you, and you can tweak it there, because there you see exactly what was sent to the remote system. So as I was saying, prompts matter, because large language models, in my view, are not intelligent, and AGI is a myth that may cost us the planet. Good results require good prompts, and prompts require thinking about the question. And in my 10 years experience as a teacher, I came to the conclusion that a good teacher would think very carefully about the questions they ask students. That's not all teachers, but a good teacher. And the process of creating these prompts can encourage a teacher to think very hard about what it is they're expecting from the student. So that's a trivial example of a prompt, and here's a real one from Professor Klaus in Germany. Go through the text sentence by sentence and verify whether it responds to the question, warum müssen wir... I better stop there because my German pronunciation. But you can see this is a big long prompt, and it also highlights that these models are multilingual. I presented this in Japan, where they find it particularly useful because, and you can see here it can handle Japanese characters, because it's good to give the feedback in Japanese. It occurred to me quite recently, despite I've been developing this for almost 2 years, that this could be a general question type that could process all manner of different things. And I've been trying it with programming languages, and that's a JavaScript problem there. And certain models are better than others at that. There's one called Quen that's quite good at programming languages. And it could be adapted to take handwritten input, for example, for pre-literate children, because you think about it, the one demographic the student doesn't address is people who can't read yet. But if you could give them sound input and they could draw a dog, does that look like a dog? Whole new vistas open up. So one of the questions I get is that, can the teacher see the feedback before the students? And the answer is yes. I don't think that's a really good idea, because I say I like the idea of the students getting the feedback as soon as humanly possible before they've forgotten the problem they were puzzling over, but you can if you want. And last of all, I want to finish on this feedback from Professor Robert Herschel, who's an English professor in Japan, teaches English, and he says, "Perhaps what has me most excited at the present moment is the idea of having students type a paragraph answer to a prompt that will generate general grammatical feedback in Japanese, correcting the student's grammar. Obviously, there would need to be a proviso explaining that this is AI. It may not be 100% accurate, and that you should always ask the teacher if you are unsure. But," and I almost never use all caps, I know him well, he doesn't, "this is extremely exciting. Providing grammatical feedback to students is exceptionally time-consuming for teachers, is quite frequently incomprehensible to students." Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The AI text question type.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate that. We have one more set of co-presenters, very exciting. Jean-François? Jean-François and Florence Bruno. Now, we've looked at some of the things that you can do once you have a course. What happens if you have no course at all? Jean-François is going to show us.
Okay, thank you. Hello everybody, I'm Jean-François Leclerc, CEO of eLearning Touch, and I'm today with Florence.
Florence Bruno, I'm an educational designer at the University of UBO in France.
Okay, we are going to talk to you about Course AI. It's a plugin that we developed at first at eLearning Touch, and that we are sharing now with 2 other Moodle partners, Boxes and Cipot. And we make an experiment with University of Brest in Brittany in France, and we'll have some results about what we done with the team. So our goals for Course AI is to have something very simple for the teacher, because we noticed that the teachers have the syndrome of blank page, and it's difficult for them to have to build activities, or maybe also to structure the sections in the course. So we try to imagine something creative to make it easier in Moodle.
As I said before, I work as an educational designer at the University of the Western Brittany, and I am also the Moodle platform coordinator. So that's why Jean-François asked me to test his plugin developed by his team, and I think it's better to carry out an experiment. So I brought together teachers, lecturers, and students from a master degree on science education to do that test and to fill a grid with criteria and indicators to comment the experience. A few words on the university, and it's a medium-sized but multidisciplinary university in Brest. I don't know if I had precised it. Maybe everybody know where Brest is in France. Maybe not. And we are a multidisciplinary discipline. So that's why it was easy to have different specialties of teachers.
Okay, so now I suggest to have a discovering of Course AI with a short video. So, thank you. That's what you can imagine for Course AI. Now I want to show you what is the case and what are the different steps for the teacher. In fact, we imagine to build a course differently than usually in Moodle. And here is the edition mode in Moodle, and we had a menu with a Course AI link to go in the interface of Course AI. So at first, you can see that there were three steps in Course AI. The first one is to precise the course subject and to have a short description of the project. You can use AI to precise and to also expand your subject in order to have something much more easy. The second step is to choose the source of your course. You can effectively use only AI, but you can also add some PDF or some videos, some audio podcast, and it will be taken by the plugin. You can also precise the participant, if it's collaborators or students, and also a kind of level, soon expert or beginners. And what's very important for teachers with this famous blank page is not to have how to build my course. So we based our reflection about pedagogics with ABC Learning Design, and we built 5 scenarios for the teachers about collaborative and also other scenarios that are represented with a radar diagram, so it's much more easy for them to identify what they can do, how they can build, and how to have a section. And each of scenarios has some default rules, and the teacher can check or uncheck different default parameters. And you can decide to add or not to add a glossary, to add text, to add quizzes in every section or only in one section. And depending on the scenario you choose, the default ready to use. So you can see at the bottom of the page, there is a great preview. So the first generation of the course, the second step, show you that the activities are ready to use. The text is generated, and there is a place for the teacher to modify the text directly in this preview view. So we can generate a lot of activities. And when the text is verified first time, you can launch the generation of the course, and the course is ready to use with images, the sections, and the different activities are ready for the user. So we can generate 10 kinds of activities actually with Course AI. And you can see with pages, text and media, assessment, big blue button, glossary, H5P, with I think six kind of activities in H5P, forums, URL, quizzes, and also certificates. So it's a very complete course that is now ready for using for the teachers. And that's what we test with a team of Florence. So what are the results of the test, Florence?
So the experiment permit to highlight some strengths and some weakness, but the strengths are most of the adaptability and including a structure and organization of the course. And the weakness is the most about what AI can provide and how the users do with AI.
So we also have a roadmap for this plugin, and we look after the return of the feedback of the experiment, and we have to adjust some information. Effectively about AI, the content is generated and it needs to be controlled by the teacher and to be reviewed, and depending on the different subject, you have to make much more or less expertise. For general use, it's efficient, but if you have some technical content, it must be much more work. The second branch of our reflection is to improve sources. Actually, you use AI sources and all the sources that the teacher can put, but we are working on personal LLM or RAG, something like that, to have to be able to contextualize the plugin and to have much more efficient instead of having AI hallucinations. And of course, Moodle is very rich. There are a lot of activities, and you can have different scenarios. So our reflection is based on new activities. We soon have achievements by default, but depending on the scenarios, we can make some different parameters for the different achievements. Course formats also, design and ergonomics, etc. And the door is very open about what we can do with Course AI.
Right.
Sorry. One more.
Go on. That's right. Just stay here. Thank you very, very much. One of the things I love about these stories is not only the development itself, but you'll have seen woven through there the amount of collaboration that's taking place, the other organizations that have been involved in this, the fact that Peter and Marcus actually collaborated together on things, the very, very inherent to exactly what I was talking about at the beginning, the beauty of what open source provides. These are just select examples. They're really exciting things that are developed, but there is so much more happening in this space. And this is 4 of the sessions, so put up all of the AI sessions that we have. There are so many, we have to fit them on 3 different screens. If you want to try and capture these, take a quick snapshot of these. These are taking place today. Tomorrow, we have some more, 3 more. And on day 3, another 3. So lots of opportunity to see what is happening within the community in this space. And this is not at all comprehensive of what's going on out there across the world. So much that is currently available and capable today. So, Peter, Marcus, could you please join us back up at the stage? And I want to take the opportunity to do one more round of applause for the great work that they're doing and the contributions that they're making. I want to return just briefly to these 3 ideas, reflected so well in the work that they're doing: diverse ideas, inclusive participation, rich creativity, an environment that flourishes. We have so much more for you this week. We had hoped to do some time for Q&A. We are out of time for that today, but get a good look at them. They will be around. Find them in the hall. Ask them questions. Inquire about how you can work with them. They would love that. Thank you to all of you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.